All right, hello everybody and welcome. My name is Emily Swanson. I work at the Vick Center for Strategic Advising and Career Counseling. I'm a career counselor there. And today we're going to talk a little bit about writing internal transfer essays. So I know this is a thing that really freaks a lot of students out. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how to maybe approach writing it, some of the basics, why you're writing it in the first place. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you'll be able to see our presentation for today. Go ahead and get that up. All right, so writing a personal statement for internal transfer. Okay, so what kind of is the purpose of this? Right, so if you're thinking, you're starting to write this and you're like, why do I even have to write this essay in the first place? Well, some helpful things to kind of think about. So it really does explain why you want to transfer into a major of your choice in your own words. So this actually gives you the ability to talk about your own unique reasons for why you want that major. You might be interested in the same major as maybe a friend of yours or somebody else, but you probably have different reasons for wanting to be in that particular major. So go ahead and sort of demonstrate that, right? Talk about your own reasons. It also helps the committee learn who you are outside of your GPA. So GPA is kind of one side of the story, right? It's very numerical, very kind of cut and dry. This sort of essay gives you an opportunity to be a little bit more holistic. So to talk a little bit about the reasons why you're interested in it in the first place. So that GPA only tells sort of part of the story. So you really want to get at, why are you a good fit for this particular major, right? So it's sort of your place to make your case for that particular major. It also helps demonstrate your writing abilities. So even for things like CNS, different STEM fields, you're going to be writing lab write-ups. And so this really helps get across to the readers and the committee who actually reads it, can you write? You know, can you also handle the rigors and the academic difficulties of that particular major as well? So know that those are some of the different reasons why we actually make you do this in the first place. I know it's kind of intimidating, but this actually helps you sort of make your case for yourself too. So what are they actually looking for, right? What are some different things that people sort of want to know about and kind of why you're writing this? So the first thing is sort of, will you succeed in that major, right? So do you share sort of the same values as people who are already in that major, or some of those committee members as well? So again, we're getting at that goodness of fit. So that's what this is going to keep coming back to, is this sort of a good fit for you? And the way that you can sort of demonstrate that is by talking about some experience in the field. So do you have that experience? Have you tried it out before? Can you show that you have some commitment to the field by already having done some of these things already? So that's sort of a helpful way to show them that, yes, you are going to be a good fit. Of course, you want to talk about, why do you want the major, right? So that's sort of the biggest question, is why do you even want to do this in the first place? So really kind of getting at that. And because it sounds good is not really a great way to sort of explain that. So you really want to talk about what your understanding of the major actually is, and sort of getting at that piece. So going at that, you sort of want to see, have you thought about and have you explored this particular major? So saying things like, I've always known, doesn't really help your case, because it's likely that maybe you haven't always known that you want to do, you know, the math major and do actuarial sciences. It's pretty niche, right? Maybe you haven't always wanted to do finance. So they really want to see, have you grappled with this? Have you really thought it through? And do you understand what is a part of that major too? So have you looked it up? Have you sort of seen, okay, yeah, I'm kind of interested in this. So just make sure you're getting at that piece as well. So maybe you've already looked at some of your essay questions, maybe you haven't. These are some of the past ones that we've used. These may not be the most up-to-date ones, but these are sort of the ones that they have kind of used in the past. So submit an essay describing how the intended major would impact the achievement of educational and career goals. So that is actually CNSs. Please explain why you're interested in majoring in IRG, and explain your reasons for wanting to transfer from your current major to social work. So whenever you're looking at those, what do you kind of notice about those questions? They're pretty broad, right? They're very vague, they're very broad, and they do that on purpose. However, those types of questions can be really intimidating for students because it's sort of like, well, okay, what do you want to know about me? You know, where do I even start with this? So keep that in mind, that this is sort of intentional, that they are leaving it pretty open for you to sort of make the case that sort of best showcases your skills, your experience, and to help get to know you a little bit outside of just that GPA and your transcripts of the different classes that you're taking too. So we're going to break it down now, right? So here's the way, you know, we saw these very intimidating questions. Here's the way to kind of break it down in a helpful sort of manner in order to best sort of answer some of these questions that they're actually asking. And so the way that I like to think about this is kind of in almost like chunks of an essay, okay? So these are generally pretty short. They're usually 3,000 characters, maybe a page. So these are not very, very long. So you need to fit a lot of information in a very small sort of space. So keep that in mind whenever you're reading and kind of writing these, that you do need to be very concise. You need to really be hard hitting with it. You need to get all the information across very quickly. So the way that we see pretty successful essays is to start with some sort of introduction. And we use the term catchy, we use the term hook, and I'll explain that a little bit because it may be a little bit different than how you've done that in past. So like in your English classes in high school or college, when you think of hook, you're thinking of like this broad question starting out, or you know, something that really gets the reader's attention. And that's good to get their attention. However, these majors are really looking for that hard-hitting information. They want to get to know you very, very quickly. So when we say catchy intro with a significant story, achievement, or moment, you really want to think of things that are kind of like that moment that you knew, this is the right fit for me, this is the right major, and here's why. So it's not so much as a hook as it is sort of a way that really showcases, this is how I knew. And not everybody has that like snap moment, I knew I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. And that's okay. We want to talk about maybe one significant story that really does showcase that. So then you're going to kind of go into why that particular major is a good fit. So this is all kind of your introduction. So I want you to look at these top two boxes right here. These are going to go together. So these are the things that kind of comprise your introductory paragraph. That story, why is that particular major a good fit? Why are you interested in it? What are your particular reasons? And again, make every sentence count with this. There is no fluff in here, okay? So make sure that whenever the committees are reading it, that each sort of sentence gets at a new thing that you're trying to get across to them. So there's no repeating yourself. So this next piece here, you're going to talk a little bit about your experiences, right? So how do you really showcase that you're a good fit? Again, by that experience. And you're going to talk about things, and we'll go more in depth with this too, things that prepared you for the major, if you have classes, hobbies, etc. And we'll go more into that as well. And then the last two bits of it, so your short and long-term career goals or educational goals with that degree, as well as a brief concluding sentence, right? Just something to tie it together. You don't need a full conclusion necessarily, just something that sort of ties it all back together. And we'll go more in depth on what those short and long-term goals actually look like too through this. So again, all these colleges want to hear are those three major questions that they want sort of answered. Why that college or major, some of your short-term and long-term goals, and then to explain how, you know, how you've done these things before with that experience. Okay. So that intro just helps your application stand out. We're going to look at some examples to kind of help walk you through this. And we also have some handouts, so feel free to email me or email the Vick Center, and we will give you a copy of this particular slide, as well as some introductory paragraphs, both kind of before and afters. So we'll get into that. So really, mainly you just don't want to start out your essay with, I want to be in computer science because blah, 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 right? Because that committee is going to read many, many applications that read exactly the same as that. So you want to stand out a little bit, but again, you want it to be very, very relevant to whatever it is that you're applying for. So no fluff in that. So let's look at some examples here. So I want you to decide whether or not you feel like this is a good example. Okay, so kind of be thinking about that. So I want to apply to be an international relations and global studies major because I really like traveling and I think studying abroad will be fun. I travel abroad throughout high school and I just want to continue traveling. I'm currently a geography major and I really do not like it. I'm not enjoying my classes and I know I'd like international relations and global studies classes better. I don't really know why I picked geography, but now I know I want to do international relations. How do we feel about that? Good one? Not so great one? I'm gonna go with it's not really a great one. So let's look at maybe a revised essay, right? So here's kind of what's wrong with it. Whoop. So where's kind of that hook? There's nothing that really draws you in. Like when I'm reading that, it doesn't make me want to keep going with it. It also doesn't get at what you bring to IRG, right? So there's no sort of, you know, uniqueness to it. It's really boring and generic. So if you read it, you know, it's sort of saying things like, I just like traveling. I think studying abroad would be fun. That's not what IRG is necessarily about, right? So it's clear that this person doesn't really know much about that particular major either. The other thing is, if you've read your essay back and it could belong to anybody, you need to go back and do it again. So just make sure that your voice is in there. It also talks about how they hate their current major. Just don't bring it up. Move forward with your life. Think about how IRG could be really a great fit for you. Whereas when you're focusing on your current major or things that you're not enjoying in school, you're just wasting space, right? So really focus on kind of the major going forward. Okay, so here is an updated example of that. So a group of students waited nervously at the airport, unsure of where they were going at the start of the semester. Being able to make meaningful connections with each student and serving as their first international peer contact at UT was incredibly rewarding. I learned a great deal about the impact that an individual's culture can have on their everyday life and became curious about learning more about their home countries. My peer contacts even inspired me to begin learning Mandarin. Serving as a peer contact helped me to realize that pursuing a degree in international relations and global studies will pair my interest in understanding cultures and working abroad to enhance international security. Much better, right? It's much more specific. It's a very specific example of something from that person's life. So they used sort of an experience that they already had and talked about how this particular major would pair well with their life, right? So it's getting at, they do sort of have done a little bit of research, clearly, they understand what that major is, and even a little bit of kind of a future goal too. So this can be even kind of a condensed version of that outline that we saw earlier. So we have a CNS intro here. This is kind of our meh one. So I want to apply to be a biology major because I really liked biology in high school and think I would like to be a doctor one day. And this major will help me get to med school. I'm currently a geography major and I really do not like it. This poor geography major. Geography is a great major, okay guys? And I really do not like it. I am not enjoying my classes and know I would like biology classes better. I don't really know why I picked geography, but now I know I want to do biology. I have looked at the degree plan for biology and think the classes sound interesting. It also includes most of the classes I need for med school application. I did well in my Bio 311C class, so I know I'll be able to academically cope with the degree requirements. So that one is also kind of meh, right? It's sort of saying the same thing as kind of that first one. It's sort of kind of complaining about their current major and not enjoying it. This one does a little bit better of a job of talking about like, hey, I took this class and I can see that I would do well in future courses. However, it's talking about a class that everyone has taken, right? If you're transferring into CNS, you've most likely taken Chem, you know, Chem 1, Bio 1, and a math course. So, you know, if you're talking about a class that everyone has taken, be a little bit more specific. What specifically stood out to you about that intro class? Was there a topic? Was there a project that really drew you in? So get a little bit more specific with it. You know, and again, it really doesn't get at what would be interesting to that person. So the other thing is, this person wants to maybe become a doctor. You can do that from any major. You don't necessarily need to be a bio major in order to go to med school. So it's not really a great argument. So you really need to kind of argue your case a little bit. So here's another sort of revised introduction. So I lifted the sharp scalpel and sliced through the smooth skin on the belly. All around me, I could hear people groaning and making disgust noises, but I was only focused and fascinated as I performed my first dissection on the frog in 6th grade. From this beginning introduction to the world of biology, I became interested in the human body, how it functions, its organs and structures. I took this a stage further this summer when I shadowed a doctor at my local hospital. So that's sort of the beginning of their essay, right? So it's a lot more specific. You can really get an idea of why maybe they want to be a doctor, right? That's definitely not something I would want to do, you know, just with the graphic nature of this particular introduction. But it gets a little bit more specific, and that's really what you want to use as something to draw people in. It's a very specific example. And again, this is not fluff. This is really showcasing that interest and that commitment to that particular field. So let's talk a little bit about the short and long-term goals, because I think students get a little worried about this. This is kind of the scariest part of it, and it's really not. And I'll talk a little bit about why it's not. So short term, so what do you actually want to do while you're there? What do you want to do while you're in that particular major? So whenever you're thinking about this, go and look at the degree plan, go look at course descriptions, get an idea of what kind of classes it is you'll be taking, and talk about some of those. If some of them stand out to you and you're like, that seems like a pretty cool class to be in, write about that. Of, you know, hey, I'm excited to take these courses. I wouldn't be able to otherwise. The other things that you can kind of think about too are, you know, student orgs, research labs. Are there ways that you want to get involved in that particular major that you couldn't do otherwise? So are there thesis or thesi, plurals, that you would want to do while you're here? Are there particular professors you're interested in working with or learning from? So know that this is a little bit more of like what draws you to that particular major and what makes you excited to be in it, you know? So that can be pretty wide open. And then lastly, long-term. So this is the one that scares students the most. What do you want to do after graduation? And a lot of students think like, oh, but I don't really know yet, right? And that's okay. So just know that, you know, this isn't something that you have to write like, okay, here's my 10-year plan. It's just more of a general idea. What is it that you want to do? And this can be a place where you sort of dream big. You know, it's not necessarily something, you know, nobody's going to hold you to it at graduation. No one's going to come to you and, you know, as you're walking across the stage, say, okay, but did you get a job in that thing that you said that you were going to do in your internal transfer essay? No. So, you know, if they're like, oh, whoops, psych, just kidding, can't give you this degree. That's not going to happen, right? I wouldn't say lie, definitely don't lie, but if you have an idea of what you want to be doing, this is a place to talk about that. Be excited about some of your goals and really think a little bit bigger than maybe you normally would. So if you have an idea about grad school, if you want to go and get a master's or a PhD, add that in here. And certain colleges do want to see, do you have grad school plans to see, do you want to take this even further? Do you have plans for this? And that's mainly what they want to understand, is by understanding your long-term goals, how does this major fit into that? You know, how do you kind of connect those together? So keep that in mind, that this is not a place where you're either making things up or you're just putting like, I don't know. This is a place where you can kind of dream a little bit bigger. And if it's true that you really don't know, maybe even say something along the lines of, taking these particular classes will help me sort of fine tune my interest in this particular area. Don't necessarily say like, I don't know, and whoops. Sort of talk about like why being in that major would help you then sort of figure out exactly what you want to do. Give at least a little bit of a goal. Okay. Hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better about those long-term goals, because I know that is sort of the one that scares students the most. So, okay. So let's go on. So we're going to talk a little bit about that experience piece. So that's going to be the meat of your actual essay. So that's going to be the majority of probably what you write. So the introduction, you know, can be a little short, as well as the conclusion. But this piece is going to be a little bit more involved. So everything is fair game if it's relevant. Okay, so stay on target. Make sure that you're only talking about things that are relevant to whatever it is that you're actually applying for. So think about different hobbies maybe that you've had, any clubs or organizations. If you're involved in things in high school, that's always great. I know some colleges like that more than others. I know McCombs wants to see more of what you're actually working on in college. So do make sure that you do that. But other colleges, other majors are a little bit more lenient. And I know as you're a freshman, maybe sophomores, you may have kind of limited experience in college. So that is okay. Bring high school into this too. If you've done any projects in class, maybe like large essays, you know, research essays maybe that you've had, volunteering, part-time jobs, any of those things you can bring into this. So this is not a place to just relist kind of your resume. You want to go a little bit deeper, and we'll talk more about how you can do that too. Now, if you're like, I don't have experience in this particular field, that's okay too. So talk a little bit about how you know that you want to do that. And if you've tested it out, if you've tried it before, maybe you have some personal projects, that's a good thing to bring into this as well. You can bring those in. write about those. But also think about focusing on transferable skills. So if you haven't heard of transferable skills before, that's okay. We'll talk a little bit about it right now. So transferable skills are those skills that you can use, that you sort of developed and used in one arena that you can use in many, many others. And so some examples of that, you can see this lovely infographic. It's a little bit older, but that's okay. This is from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. So this is sort of an organization that sort of has universities and employers, and they sort of talk to each other and they decide what are some of those really important skills and qualities that students need whenever they graduate in order to be hired. Same thing kind of goes for internal transfer, right? So colleges are looking for some of those skills, some of those soft skills or transferable skills that you developed in some of your coursework that you can use in other courses. So if you look at this, communication is up there, working as a team, solving problems, quantitative data, so no computer software, right? If maybe you're interested in computer science or something that might use a little bit more software, feel free to bring those in there too. But basically, what this is kind of getting at is, hey, I may not have the direct experience in this field that I'm applying for, but I can get kind of close. And I'll give you an example. So we've had students before who, maybe are in, and this is kind of an older example, so bear with me. Back in the day, Moody College of Communications also had an internal transfer essay. They've since stopped, but I remember working with some students who were coming from CNS. They had done a lot of volunteer work in hospitals, kind of thought they wanted to work in healthcare and then realized, actually, no, I really didn't enjoy it. So we talked about, well, whenever you're volunteering at a hospital and you're working with patients, that's a lot of communication. You might be talking with patients, you might be talking with family members or doctors. So think about those ways that you can leverage the skills that you've already gained in maybe some different contexts. And so that's what we're talking about here. So think about, maybe what you've gained in class, maybe what you gained in other student orgs and how you could use those and maybe the field or the major of interest for you. And if you have any problems with that, feel free to meet with a career counselor to talk a little bit more about that too. So now you're like, but I have nothing to write about. Like, I have no idea what to even say. So this is the interactive portion of our particular presentation. But what you can do this sort of on your own time. So I'll put this up here. So free writing is something that you can definitely do. I know a lot of students aren't big fans of free writing, and I get it. I haven't always been myself, but studies actually show that whenever you do free writing and you do just kind of this exercise on your own, that sort of brain to hand connection, so either, with a pencil or with your laptop and, your keyboard, that connection can sort of help you work through writer's block. So you can even start out by saying, like, I don't know why this lady is making me do this. This is really not fun, etc., etc. And then eventually your brain will start thinking about the topic that you're actually writing about. So you will eventually get there, I promise. So I know it seems not great, but it can be really helpful. So you can select one of these prompts. You can do a free write on it for 5 minutes. Just set that timer and go. And these two seem kind of helpful, especially for this type of prompt. So think about those key moments when you realized you wanted to pursue this major. And what qualities do individuals in your field of study possess? So write about how you've demonstrated one of those qualities. So you can choose either, you can do both. It can be sort of a helpful exercise to help you through. So if you'd like to do that, go ahead and pause here. And then if not, we can kind of move on. But I would say if you can, or if you need to, you can always go back to this tune reference it. Okay. So once you have done your free writing exercise, have someone that you trust to read it over, look it over, and highlight the one thing that was most interesting about it. Okay, because that's a place where you can kind of expand on that. Then free write on that sentence, right? So whatever they have highlighted or whatever they've said was kind of the most interesting in there. Keep going with that. And so continue that process until you can kind of narrow down your content. And once you get started with it, that can be helpful. So I know too that you can start at any piece. I always found starting with my conclusion was always kind of easier in college essays, and then kind of working backwards. So totally up to you, whatever maybe your process is. Okay. So some common mistakes. So breadth over depth, okay? So a lot of students think, okay, if I throw everything I've ever done into this, surely they'll see that I belong here, right? But they forget to go really deep with that. So you're just kind of skimming the surface. So, you know, if you're saying like, okay, I was in this org and I did this thing, it's not really getting at, well, what was meaningful about that? Why did you do it? And what did you learn from it? And that's really what these colleges actually want to see. So whenever you are considering that, you really want to kind of consider who you're actually writing this for. So it's generally professors, maybe advisors, specific people from that major who have something to do with that field. Think of them kind of as your gatekeepers, right? And so you kind of want to impress them a little bit. So keep it really academic in tone, and consider who you're writing that for too. But kind of a trick that you can do is even saying, like, in addition to, you know, being in the student org and volunteering for this person, I also did this internship in whatever it is, and then go in depth with that. So that way you can kind of see both the breadth, but also the depth in that too. So again, it's not a place to rehash your resume or give kind of the bare bones of it. You really want to get at, okay, why did that particular experience kind of help inspire you or sort of inform your choice on this particular major. You also want to avoid telling your life story. So don't start from when you were like 2 or born even. You want to sort of have things that are very relevant. You want things that are more of like an academic encapsulation of what you've done. Now, if there was something really inspiring that happened to you at 4, let's say, you know, I don't know, you were at the hospital and you saw somebody, you know, your brother or sister, or something happened to them, or something happened to you, and you want to kind of tell that of like, here's why I'm interested in this. That seems fine. Just don't kind of stick there, like then kind of go and jump to maybe high school, college. Try to avoid, you know, starting all the way back and kind of moving chronologically. You also want to stay away from dramatic generalizations. I always knew, I'm always super passionate about, they're going to see through that. You know, they really want to understand that you have grappled with this and that, you know, you have really put thought into this instead of like, I always knew, because you probably didn't, right? And again, not honing in on what makes you uniquely qualified. We talked about it before, but if you go back once you're done and you read it, and it sounds like it could have been written by anybody, go back and put more personal information in there, or make sure that you're talking about what makes you uniquely qualified. And I guarantee you there are unique reasons to you. I know some students feel like, no, but you definitely do have them, I promise. And you can, again, talk to a career counselor and we can help sort of brainstorm that as well. Not answering the questions, you should do that. Definitely answer the questions. Whatever is on there, make sure you have addressed. Saying what you think they want to hear, that just comes off as disingenuous. right? So make sure, again, this is about you being a good fit. And if you're writing things that aren't true or that are things that you think that they want to hear, it may not prove that you are a good fit, or you may get into that major and be like, oh, this is not what I wanted. So know that even if you don't get accepted, it may be because it wasn't a good fit for you, and they're sort of saving you from that as well. So kind of keep that in mind too. Try not to use the word passion. You really want to demonstrate your passion. You want to paint a picture with that experience. So show them your passion rather than telling them that you're passionate about it. Be very careful with quotes. Please don't use "what starts here changes the world." I understand that this is our university motto. However, they've seen that in that kind of variation a million times. So avoid quotes. You want it to be in your own words, and when you're using quotes, that takes away from your personal words, right? You're using somebody else's. So be very, very careful with those. And sometimes it can come off as cliche as well. And then don't bash your current major. All majors are wonderful. They are equally great. So don't bash your current one, and use it to sort of talk about why you're excited about this new major. So try not to focus on what is going negatively now. However, if you do have concerns about your GPA, you can use this as a place where you can talk about, hey, this didn't go well and I focused on these other classes. But if you see I've done all these other ones that are related to your major and I've done much better in them, that can be a place to kind of address that as well. So do keep that in your back pocket as well. So some top tips: follow those word or character limits. Make sure that you are looking at word and character limits. It's very, very important. And many of these are actually sort of boxes that you fill out. So you might copy and paste and put it inside a box to send off as your application. And you want to check and make sure all of the letters, all of the words sort of got in there in that box. So make sure you do that whenever you're turning that in. Hook them, right? So use that sort of interesting introduction and things that are relevant to you and relevant to the actual major that you're applying for. Go ahead and proofread it and get maybe other people to proofread too. So we only catch so many things when you're writing it, right? So whenever you're writing it and you've looked it over so many times, you might miss things. So give it to somebody else, and we'll talk about some different resources that you have to proofread. Be concise and relevant. Again, short amount of space, short amount of time to write it. Be as concise as you can, get your point across, and be relevant to that major. Give yourself time. This is important, right? This is choosing your particular major. So that's a big step in your life. So make sure that you are giving yourself enough time to work on this, okay? So don't do this like the night before, please. At least give yourself, a few weeks to work on it and get it proofread as well. Again, consider your audience. We talked about this already. This could be professors, advisors, important people on campus. So keep it an academic in tone. Try not to be too pedestrian in your writing. You still want to have that sort of elevated academic writing. Only you're going to know when you're done. Usually what I say is whenever you're just moving things around or you're not really editing it in a way that is doing major edits, it's probably time. And then also just take a deep breath, let it go. I know it's scary, but it's okay. And if you need to come and sit with me and we'll push the button together, that's okay too. Maybe not this semester, but we can always do that virtually. So again, you'll know when you're done, just send it off and do your best. And then also seek out help. So, talk to people who can help you. So Maybe that's friends, maybe that's classmates, professors even, us, the Writing Center. Use your resources. You have them, use them. And so lastly, our resources on campus. So I'm from the Vick Center. We do career counseling. If you are sort of unsure, you know, okay, I don't even know what major to do. I'm not sure what I'm doing with my life. I'm not sure what comes next. Maybe you do like your major, but you're not sure what comes next. Feel free to come and visit us. I'm very willing and able to help you guys out with that. We're located in Jester A115. Obviously, things as they are right now are virtual, so we will not be in our office, but we are doing virtual meetings as well through Zoom. You can also visit the University Writing Center. So they are really great. They're there to help you as well. So you can go and set up meetings with them as well. They're also doing Zoom meetings too. So feel free to use both of us. I hope that you learned some helpful tips and you understood a little bit, you know, of maybe ways to approach this. I hope this helped out. I hope you all stay safe and stay healthy, and definitely come see us if you need help with this. And we do appreciate your feedback. So if you will go to this survey, so bit.ly/Vick survey 1920, and I'll ask you a few questions. We like to make these better for you guys and to kind of help you out. So the topic is writing effective internal transfer essays. How you heard about us is however you heard about us. My name is Emily Swanson. So look for me on there. Give me a shout out if you'd like. I'd appreciate it. And then we have a few questions of things that you found helpful, maybe things that you didn't find helpful. And if you would like, you can always email me your internal transfer essay. I'm happy to look over them over email. You can also set up appointments with us. We have hour-long appointments, so we have plenty of time to kind of dive into it. And yeah, so good luck on these, and let me know if you need any help.